Hey everybody, welcome to Infinite Being TV. Today my guest is an award-winning author, speaker, and mystic, Edwin Spina. He's author of the books Mystic Warrior and Mystic Secrets Revealed. He's also developer of Energy Center Clearing. Before becoming a spiritual healer, Ed went through a massive transformation. He has an engineering degree and MBA. He also worked with various venture capital firms and started technology-based companies in music and sports. Ed specializes in helping people connect with their higher self and thereby creating greater joy and clarity. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Suma. It's great to be here.
Can you tell us how you switched from having an engineering background to being a spiritual mystic?
Okay, well, it went from engineering to, I knew I didn't want to do that. Then I went to business school at the University of Chicago. And I got an MBA in finance and marketing. And then I got into the venture capital business. And I thought that was the most cutting-edge business to be in. But that wasn't fast-paced enough for me because I wanted to be like Steve Jobs and have millions of dollars and be able to travel around the world. So I decided I needed to become an entrepreneur. I figured that would be faster. So I began a few companies in the technology field where I was an entrepreneur and I was all stressed out. And then one day my girlfriend sent me to Blockbuster Video to get a movie so we could watch. And this is in the days before they even had DVDs. It was a videotape. And right next to the counter, there was a videotape that promised to get rid of all my stress. And it was Dick Sutphin's Past Life Regression. And I didn't know much about past life. I'd heard of it, but I certainly wasn't an expert, and I wasn't interested in anything spiritual. I said, well, if this gets rid of my stress, let's try it out. So we tried it out. I went into an altered state, and I recalled a past life in significant detail. And I wasn't ready to admit that this is a past life automatically, but I knew. I checked it out, and I saw that I had access to information that I had no way of knowing. Because I said I was not spiritual, and I wasn't a history buff or anything like that either. So I said, okay, how is it possible I know these things? So then I began my studies of everything spiritual. Karma, reincarnation, past lives, all under the umbrella of mysticism, to try to understand how the universe really worked. Because even though I had this great education, I felt it was incomplete. And so that's what started me on my spiritual quest.
And I know, because you have this engineering background, how did you address the skepticism of your engineering friends when you shared this incident?
Well, I was really a mathematician, which our mathematics professor used to always make fun of the engineers for being engineers, and we're mathematicians. We're interested in theory and that. So the engineers, they didn't really, I wasn't in touch with them anyway by that point in time. So any skepticism, I'm the biggest skeptic because I want to make sure that everything's logical. I learned from mathematics it's the ultimate in logic. So if these spiritual principles aren't logical, then they're useless to me. And if they're not practical, then it's not of use to me either. Because you can't just have some theory, oh, this is how things are. If you can't put it into practice, then I feel like you haven't mastered that subject.
And based on your study that you did, what is our spiritual anatomy like? It seems like there's, you talk about mind, spirit, body. Can you explain more in detail the anatomy?
Right. Everyone knows that you're not your physical body. Every spiritual tradition, every religion, they always tell you that. You talk about the soul. But more specifically, besides your physical body, you have an emotional body, mental body, and spiritual bodies of increasingly higher vibration. And at the apex of your individuated existence is the I Am presence. That's your gateway to the pure consciousness, to the oneness, to the God, ultimately, the ultimate reality. And in between your I Am presence and your mind and body is your higher self, which can move up as you become more able to tap into it. But these mental bodies and emotional bodies are the things that get bogged down a lot of times by our emotions and our thoughts, which very often are not even our own, which need to be cleared out so that you can access that small, still voice within, the higher self, and ultimately the I Am presence. So that's what I do with my energy center clearing technique.
And you also mentioned about different densities. I have the question if densities are same as dimensions, and what's the difference between different densities like third, fourth, and fifth density?
Right. Dimensions, everyone think we live in a three-dimensional world, length, height, width, and then time. So we have, like we could say, we live in a four-dimensional world. But densities are just higher frequencies of these same dimensions. Like in your dreams, we're in the fourth density in your dream state, but people look like people. Time may be dilated or expanded. There's a lot of things that happen. You can change your height and width and things like that because the laws of that fourth density world are different than our 3D world. But it's still three-dimensional, but it's fourth density. And our world is moving up from third density to fifth density and above. And that's, we're living in one of the most exciting times in our world's history, our civilization's history.
What's the concept of time? Can you elaborate?
Okay, well, in the 3D world, time seems pretty fixed. But even when it seems fixed, you can see how time seems a little bit malleable. If you're doing something that's fun, time passes in a second. If you're in a boring lecture and it will seem to slow down and tick, 1 second may seem like 10 seconds. So time is really malleable even in the third density. In our dreams, it's obviously malleable because we can go through an entire day in seconds, we can go through years can pass. And as we go even higher into the fifth density, we get to the point where time doesn't exist, where everything's happening simultaneously. And that's, that's a higher aspect of who we are.
So it takes a different meaning as you move through different densities.
Right, well, a good example is like reincarnation. People think, the fundamentalist religions for the most part say, there's no reincarnation. Then you move up a little bit, you get a better understanding of what's going on. You say, wait, there is reincarnation because I've tapped into these memories like I did when I rented that videotape, and this is part of me, and I know because it gave me information, and I can relate to it now that I've studied it more. But then as we get to the fifth density, reincarnation doesn't exist again because everything's happening simultaneously, so there's no such thing as past and present. It's all laid out at the same time. So depending on your perspective, you'll have a different understanding of time, reincarnation, a lot of different subjects.
And why do you think remembering that past life experience is important for our personal evolution? And how can we remember a past life or someone who is new?
Right. Okay, well, it's not ultimately important, and in fact, there's some spiritual traditions like the Sufis who they discourage anyone from studying past lives because they don't want to get them stuck there in that level. They want them to go all the way to the I am presence, to the oneness, to the ultimate reality. So they don't want them to get stuck there. But I find that the past lives help because it actually helped me with the relationship I had with my girlfriend at the time, because in that relationship, all her power was derived from being my wife. And then when I found out that at the time I didn't know she was going to be, she never turned out my wife in this lifetime. And I didn't know she was my wife in that lifetime. It just happened when I went back and rewatched the video without her there. But then I saw how the dynamic between us existed and how it was with her and her boss where she worked at a big hospital chain, and she reported directly to the president, and all her power was derived from him. And I tried to encourage her to make friends and alliances with other people that she worked with so that she wouldn't, if the boss were ever to leave, she wouldn't lose all her power. And she didn't do that. The boss left, he took a job at another chain, and a new person came in, wasn't as fond of her, and so she was looking for a job 6 months later because she didn't learn that lesson from the past life.
And how can we connect with our higher self?
Okay, well, a technique that I've worked on over the last year, first it happened spontaneously. When I do my energy center clearing, I would clear people out, I'd fill them with positive, higher vibrational energy, I'd keep raising their vibration, and as I raised it, I would pull off any discordant energies. Now it could be emotions, mental trash, thoughts you keep thinking that are not helping you anymore, and I would keep raising the person up. And so I did this with one person who was an advanced student in a sense, because she's already clairvoyant. And so I was clearing around, and just at the end when I'm bringing her to as high a place as I could, I noticed it seemed like there was a luminous field above her. And I asked her, because she's clairvoyant, I said, do you see this? She said, yes, I see it. I said, what is it? And she paused and then just said, self. And I said, great, that's your higher self. Let's invite her in. So we invited her in, and it's been with her ever since. And I was kind of monitoring her, and she was a little bit of my guinea pig because it hadn't happened before, where I would ask her how things were, and I would see her embody that higher self more and more over time. And it's a very short time. This is just a matter of a couple of weeks. At first, her higher self was like a separate person, and she could tell the difference between when she was speaking, the ego human, and the higher self. And she explained the higher self would be calmer, speak a little slower, and whenever she was talking to people, the higher self would know if the person was lying or telling the truth. So it had she had a built-in lie detector with her higher self. Then later, her higher self became more merged with her, and her famous line to me was, you know what I realize now is that Cindy doesn't really exist. It's just my higher self in the world, and Cindy's not even needed.
For some of us who are new to this, how do we distinguish between the voice of higher self and voice of ego? Sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference.
The main thing is, well, like in the scriptures in the New Testament, when Jesus says, you will know them by their fruit, that applies here. If the voice you're hearing is empowering, don't listen to that person, or don't listen to this other advisor, you're the best. That's the ego again. The higher self would encourage you to listen, but then you have to form your own opinion. So that's a little bit more subtle, that distinction. But that's it. It's empowering, higher self, fear-based, ego.
And how do we avoid that spiritual arrogance? Sometimes when you tap into this mode and you're able to connect with your higher self and you are able to take advantage of that, but there comes the spiritual arrogance, and how do we avoid that?
Yeah, it's like a common step that people go through as they're evolving and going higher and higher. Sometimes they think, I'm better than he is or she is. I know better. And I had one person who once had the nerve to say, well, she didn't like this one person. He's not one of the 144,000, as if, she is, and she's like a near godlike creature. So you just have to catch yourself. If you're acting out of ego, you're going to dismiss other people as beneath you, and that's not how it is. Everyone is equal in the eyes of God. We're all just single points of awareness in that oneness. Now, that doesn't mean we're all of equal ability. I mean, I learned from people that are more advanced and more longer-term mystics than me. And one of, not really a mentor, but one person that I learned from, he made it very clear. He said, look, we're all students on the path. Some of us are further along than others, and it's our job to help those that are not as far along, to bring them up to our level, just as others have helped you and I when we were beginners.
It's like a big classroom where everyone is helping each other.
Right. And that's like the Rosicrucian is one mystical society where their symbol is the rose and the cross. And the rose is the unfolding of the soul within, and the cross is the human incarnation. We're learning, our soul's evolving through a human incarnation, which is one of the best classrooms because we get, everything doesn't happen simultaneously where you won't know which end is up. But with the human classroom, you learn how your thoughts manifest reality, you learn how these things happen. So it's a great training ground.
And what are some of the first steps to escape the matrix?
Okay, well, first understanding that we're in this kind of matrix, just like the movie, The Matrix. Neo discovers that the world that he thought was the world wasn't the world, it was all imaginary. He was in this advanced artificial intelligence system. And then he later discovered that it was his thoughts and fears and that powered the matrix. And so in order to escape it, he had to not so much escape it as transcend it, recognizing that he's powering the matrix. And when you move up the food chain and become more and more in tune with your higher self, you become less and less influenced by the external world and more influenced by your own self, and that the higher energies coming from your innermost self, from your higher self, master within, by whatever name you want to give it. And that's the best attribute of people who go through this process with me, is that where before they were fearful or worried about what other people would think, and also if they're empathic, they're picking up energies from all different people, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of everyone else. Once you're powered with your higher self, that has much less effect on you. And you're radiating love and energy out to the universe, so anyone who's discordant is just going to benefit from being in your presence.
It's like you understand better how your body functions and how your mind functions.
Well, yes, you'll understand why certain things are happening. that's at every level. I'm trying to think of an example where there was this one fellow that I knew who was a major rainmaker. This was when I was still in traditional business, and I wasn't interested in spirituality yet. And he could create amazing wealth in a very, very short time, and then he would waste it all away by drinking. But when he would be out at a bar, it could be 1 o'clock in the morning, and he'd be getting in trouble, insulting people, whatever he was doing that was crazy. He would call me, or sometimes the bar manager would call me, "Hey Ed, can you get over here? You know, Hamilton's acting up again." And for whatever reason, I would just feel compelled. I'd get dressed, I'd go pick him up, drop him off at his home with his wife, and leave him alone. And I just felt compelled to help him. And I couldn't figure it out. But then later, when I began these spiritual studies, I realized we had a past life together, where not only had I killed him, so in a sense I owed him a life, I had to save his life again, but he had saved my life in the same thing, so I owed him like twice. And I would be bailing him out for it probably took over a year, where I would always be bailing him out. And it wasn't until I understood that past life that I understood the motivation for it, because it was beyond logic. It wasn't a logical thing, and as a mathematician I knew, wait, this is not logical, how could this be? And I finally figured it out. So there's an example where the spiritual evolution can help you understand how your mind and body operates.
For our audience, can you demonstrate your energy clearing technique?
Sure. Okay, basically what I do is I fill the person with higher vibrational energy. And I can do this because thanks to my energy mentor, who raised my energy high enough that I can just open up a portal, and higher vibrational energy comes through, and I just put it wherever it can be. And we're right next to each other here. You could be in Hong Kong, London, Buenos Aires, it wouldn't matter where you are, because this energy is beyond time and space. It starts at the 5th density, like we talked about, and goes higher. So I just open up this portal, I fill your energy centers up. You know, your heart, thymus, throat, third eye, crown, solar plexus, kidneys, adrenals are included with the kidneys, spleen, pancreas, liver, and your ovaries. And I just keep raising your vibration. After you're filled with this energy, all your energy centers are filled, I just keep raising your energy. And whenever I come to where there's dissonant energy, I pull it out. I have a different portal to dispose of it, seal it up, throw it away. And just keep raising your energy. And when I get you to as high as I can, well, there's a couple intermediate steps, but the short version is when I get you as high as I can, I invite you, your higher self, to come in fully. And that starts a whole new level of clearing. So now, since Cindy showed me the higher self, I figured out, wait, we have to systematize this. And so I got it to where I can bring in the person's higher self automatically now. And now I can do it in one session. So I would bring in your higher self, and then ask her, in your case her, as a female, to flush away all the discordant energies, all the pain and trauma from this or any other lifetime. They also go through the emotional triggers that you suffer from, that you've picked up from past experiences that tend to make you react to the similar situation going forward. We flush those away, and then I keep constantly scooping the debris up, packing it up, throwing it away. And then at the end of that, I remind you that you and your higher self are one being, and I take us both again to a higher place again. Only now your higher self is with you. There's nothing blocking you. You have a pure connection between your higher self and your mind and body. And that's what I call the higher self integration, which is an extension of the energy center clearing.
And people experience this clearing in one session?
Yeah, in one session they're much more clear. And recently I've been inundated with new clients. I was on an interview, this radio interview, and the fellow really helped promote my work. And the people that are attracted to my work are very often very advanced light carriers. They have a yearning to be healers and to be better at whatever they're doing. And so they're very advanced, and sometimes it only takes a few little things to help them to totally bring in the higher self. Like one thing that affects a lot of people, and it seems to affect women more than men, is that there'll be something from their past lives where they're blocked. They're fearful of bringing the wisdom from their higher self down and sharing it with the world, because in the past they've had instances where they did that and they got punished. I got beaten or tortured or killed or burned at the stake or all these. So subconsciously they have these memories of, wait, I better be careful about what I say. This can get me in trouble. So that's one of the things I get rid of. I specifically look for that, I ask for that, and if there is, I can feel it. I take it away, get rid of it, and then remind them, this is your job. Tap into your higher self and bring the wisdom through. So for them, it's like a godsend that what was preventing them from doing their, what I call their soul mission on earth, has been removed. So it's going to make them better at whatever they do.
And is the same technique for sending healing energy to someone?
Right. Well, I use the same basic technique, and we'll show a healing technique that everyone can use without any more training. And in my case, I'll envision the person. Like if you were here, if you were in Buenos Aires, I just say, okay, here's Suma, and I just fill her with the energy, just like as if you were right in front of me. And then because it's like a shortcut to your computer desktop, so I can move you around, and I would open up your crown, open your hands, your feet, I can move you all around because it's just a shortcut to who you are. And then I would raise your energy and do whatever I would do. You don't have to be here. You know, very few of my clearings am I in physical proximity to my client. Very often it's almost always by phone or Skype. And so that's the basic technique. Fill them with this higher vibrational energy, and the secret of this higher vibrational energy is just higher octaves of love. That's the most powerful force in the universe. So for people who don't have access to this opening up a portal and sending the energy, what you do have access to is envisioning the person you want to heal, whoever it is. It could be your grandmother, your child, whoever it is. Put them right here, and then you make a snowball. But instead of making a snowball of snow, you make it of love. And I use the mantra, absolute, unconditional, infinite, divine love. Absolute, unconditional, infinite, divine love. And you pack it into the person. And anyone can do this right now without any further training. And if you feel what the air is in the room, what the ambient air is like, and then put your hand right here, you can feel the difference. This is going to feel, and that's just, and everyone can do this already today, everyone watching this video. So that's the first step. You're filling them with love self. So you're stressed out, then you pack it full of love and scoop out anything negative. I just told this to someone else and she reminded me, so I'm going to share this one other tip. Another way of raising your energy and raising your vibration is very simple. You just envision that you're in charge of your energy with your finger. It says, okay, I'm just going to raise my energy and just bring it up. And if you feel any dissonance, stop, pull off that dissonance, throw it away, and just do it again. And one woman, she just told me yesterday, she was so happy with it. She goes, I'm using that finger technique all over the place. I mean, we even do it in other people. It's crazy. I feel like I'm on a different plane of existence now. So, and she is. Where before she was a little nervous and fearful, she's not anymore. Because her higher self is within her, and now she's got even more techniques that she's having fun with.
And in one of your books, you also mentioned about how to turn a sexual experience into a divine experience. Can you elaborate more on that?
Right. Okay, well, men and women are naturally attracted to sex, but if it's only sex, then you just have the two lower energy centers, the two chakras, the sacral chakras or the ovaries and the testes that are driving that, the male and female energy that are driving that coupling. And oftentimes after just a traditional pure sexual experience, then the person gets tired, you exchange the energy, when the person gets tired, they have their orgasm and they're done. And when there's love involved, then there's an opportunity for the energy to go up higher in the heart. It gets involved. So that's one of the reasons why people would want to have love within a relationship versus just casual sex. But then if you keep going higher and higher, there's no need to stop at the heart. You can go throat, third eye, crown, and the crown is your gateway to your higher self and to the divine. So if you can bring the energy, the male and female energy up, and then you can do that through the tantric practices or just from your intention. When the female energy goes up, the male energy, and vice versa, they encourage each other to go higher and higher and higher. And once you get that, then the energy, and once it passes through the crown, when your crown is open, then it can have a cascading effect where you can take the energy then and recirculate it like a fountain. You just keep going and going higher and higher and higher. And then the male and female can have multiple orgasms, females can have multiple orgasms anyway, that's like a commonly understood. But it's not as commonly understood that males can have this as well, with or without ejaculation. They can have the orgasm without what they commonly associate with it. And so they can just have as much bliss as a female by doing this. And once you start doing this, then you can't have just boring regular sex, because that would be the equivalent of having a 12-lane highway, everyone trying to get off on a little country road out of one little chakra. It will actually physically hurt. So you don't want to do that. You want most of the energy going up your spine to having a divine experience.
And for that to happen, both of them have to have evolved beyond the third dimension.
Yeah.
Or is it possible to?
Well, it's possible that your partner, if the partner is able to do this, is like a magnet and a pin. The pin is not magnetized yet, but if you're with someone who's a strong magnet, they can draw that energy up just from the natural consequences of lovemaking. Or, if you have someone, an energy healer, they can open up the blocks, open up your energy centers, so that everything flows more easily up toward the crown and toward the divine.
So they can be at different growth level.
Right.
So
Yeah, in general, you want someone that's roughly at your level so that they can contribute back and forth. But it's possible for one person to magnetize the other person and bring them up.
Can you explain why travel is such an important factor in personal evolution?
Okay, every spiritual tradition talks about staying in the present, as opposed to most people are reminiscing or ruining the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future. But everyone knows in order to change the future, you have to act in the present. So staying in the present is one of the fundamentals of the enlightened state of being. And so one of the best ways to ensure that is by travel. Because instead of just waking up, drinking your coffee, eating your breakfast, driving to work the same way, and everything's a routine where you're no longer focused on what you're doing, it's just become a habit. When you're traveling, every moment you're in the present, because well, where am I going to go have coffee? Where am I going to have breakfast? Oh, look, they're speaking a foreign language. There's a sight I've never seen before, and you have the wonder of being in a new place, and it just automatically forces you to be in the present. So that's one of the best ways that travel is helpful to you, because it's just forcing you to be mindful and stay in the present.
And it's breaking that regular pattern that you follow every single day.
Right, it's breaking the pattern, and even your old mental patterns get broken up just from, okay, now I have to figure out where am I going to eat, or what am I going to do today. Or it just jars you out of that routine, which is good.
And can you explain how we can cut off some of the mental cords we might have with some people and clear up our energy?
Right. Well, you can do it kind of ritualistically yourself. You envision the person here, the other person here, and just literally cutting the cords with flaming sword of truth or whatever you want to do. I mean, there are other techniques that I use that are go a little bit beyond that. And what I would do is actually anyone can do this as well. Say we were married and now we're divorced and I want to separate my energy from you. I would do a ritualistic thing where I would formally ask you to forgive me for anything I've done to you. Well, before that I would say, look, Suma, I forgive you for anything you've done to me, or I perceive you've done to me, and I'd go through life for this lifetime, any other lifetime, this dimension, any other dimension, past, present, or future. I'd say I forgive you, and I'm giving you back all your energy, all your power, and I would give it to you. And you, if you're sensitive, you can feel the flow of energy to the other person. Then after that's done, then you would ask the other person, Suma, I want you to forgive me for anything I may have done to you, or that you perceive I've done to you. And you ask them to reciprocate. Now, very often the person doesn't reciprocate because it could be anger, resentment, for whatever reason, and they're holding on to the energy. So that's when I'm involved, if there's two other people doing this, what I'll do is I'll bribe the person. I'll say, okay, Suma, I know things didn't end well with your ex-husband, but if you do forgive him and if you give him back all his energy, I'm going to give you a blessing. And I'm going to give you this higher vibrational energy beyond what you're used to. And the higher self of you is, oh, this sounds pretty good. This sounds like a good deal. I'll do that. And so then I'll bribe you. I'll give you the energy. You'll forgive him. You'll give him back his energy. And then I'll give you the blessing that you're entitled to, the deal we made. By doing that is a formal exchange of energies, and it's better than just mere visually cutting the cords.
And I also remember reading in your book that you talk about how the paradigm of awakening, it's faster now. It's not slow like it used to be in the past. How can you explain more about that shift?
Right. Well, we've always been moving up the food chain. That's our mission on Earth, is always hopefully connect with your higher self and keep moving up the food chain. And from millions and millions of years, consciousness pervades everything, and we move from mineral, plants, animal, and then human, and now we're moving up another layer. And this evolution doesn't just happen at a steady, constant thing. During certain periods, it happens faster than others. And we're in one of those periods right now where our evolution is growing at a tremendous speed. That's why everything's happening. There's turmoil in the world, and we have to welcome this turmoil because our old institutions and our old patterns of behavior now are not serving us anymore, especially as we move into a higher world. So this discord and the disarray that people see is good, is a good thing. This means we're purging all the old things, and all that is hidden is being revealed. So it's not that the world suddenly became negative. It always was. There was a negative aspect to everything, always, only now it's being revealed. Mm-hmm. Our planet and everyone on the planet is moving up at the same time. And that's what's making it easier than ever before for people to connect with their higher self and expedite this process.
Where do you think this is going? What does the future look like to you?
The future is going to be based more on service to others instead of service to self, where we have a few billionaires and the hidden rulers of our planet dictating what goes on, the ones above the presidents and prime ministers and kings on the world. There's a group of people that are running things, or were running things, and they're losing their power dramatically because they can't stop this upticking of human consciousness. And all these things that they've enacted to try to prevent humanity from going to higher levels, including a lot of the fake news that you see on TV, all of it's meant to induce fear. Whether it's a war or terrorism, the whole idea is to keep people in fear, because when you're in fear, people will automatically gravitate to their dominant brain hemisphere. People are familiar with the left brain and right brain paradigm. Left brain are the logical thinkers, the engineers, the accountants, and the right brain are the more creative types, the artists and healers, typically. And so, but the ideal state, of course, is the mystic world, all is one, so what's better? You want to be synchronized. You want left and right brain perfectly synchronized, and that's the most direct path to get to these higher states of consciousness. But what happens when you go into fear is you'll automatically go to whichever your dominant paradigm is. If you're a healer, you'll still be creative, but you won't, the logic will sort of go away. If you're logical, you'll go back to that left brain, but you won't be able to be creative, both of which are preventing you from going to higher states. So that's the fundamental reason why this behind-the-scenes group is constantly trying to orchestrate wars and put you in fear of terrorism, is to keep you from going to that state, because when people are more enlightened, they have no control over you anymore. And that's the world that we're coming to, is going to be the world based on, it's not how much money you have, it's going to be how much you can improve the lives of everyone else around you. And so it's going to be a much more cooperative world where everyone will have food and shelter and all the necessities and be able to embark on their most earnest dreams. And whatever they want to do, they'll be able to do it. And it won't be people putting you in a box or a cubicle and saying you have to stay here to buy things you don't really need or want, but that's how you were programmed into thinking. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
That sounds promising to me. It's more about taking responsibility for your own life and feeling empowered instead of putting power on government or religion.
Right.
You're taking back that power and functioning.
Yes, exactly. That's your job, is, again, tap into your higher self and bring that wisdom down to earth and share it with the world. That's the ultimate power. That's the ultimate sovereignty. That's how our world is going with. And if I'm able to help people become empowered like that, it makes my world better. I don't have to be, I'm the only guy that can tap in and have the wisdom. No, if you have your wisdom and everyone else around us has wisdom, they're going to make the world better too. It's going to make my life better. So I'm trying to help people do that. It'll make not just my life, it'll make the whole world better.
And for people who are skeptic about consciousness or functioning from that energetic being, how do you explain that this is all not magic and there is some reasoning behind it?
Well, there was the Indian Vedas, the Vedic science that's been around for thousands of years. I mean, that's still appropriate today. All what I'm talking about in common Western language is what the people that read the Vedas and wrote them thousands of years ago knew. So this is a science, and the proof is in the pudding. Is if the person's happier or more fulfilled, then that's by itself is a great thing. But when you can access information that your conscious mind has no way of knowing by tapping into your higher self, and you can prove it, scientifically, then that as a mathematician would say, QED, we're done. As was to be proven. We've just proved it.
Are there any blockages in a person that avoids them to getting in connected with their higher self?
Okay, well, there's one that I haven't talked about, and I was hesitant to talk about it for a long time because I didn't want to have people even more fearful or worry about something else. And that is that there are numerous non-physical entities that were affecting people's ability to tap into their higher self. These non-physical entities will infest a person, and whatever little trauma, whatever little problem they have, they'll turn it into something bigger. Sometimes alcoholics talk about hearing these demonic things, go ahead, get another drink, even though they know they're way past their limit. Or encourage people that are trying to be on a diet, don't worry, eat this sugary dessert, no one will notice. And it's almost like they have like the devil on their one shoulder and the angel on the other. Well, these devils on their shoulder are real. They're non-physical entities. And in the normal course of my clearing, I would, at one stage, take out these entities from them. And beginning in May of last year, I decided, hey, if I take this out, and those entities will never come back again, but I wanted to make sure that they didn't get new ones coming in. So I said, okay, I'm going to not only take the entities out of this person, I'm going to find out who put them there, what other entity put them there, and I'm going to get rid of them too. And I remember the first time I did this was May of last year. I went there, I said, okay, and I used my intention to find, okay, who are the bosses of these entities? And there they were. And they're looking at me, and I remember seeing them with my inner vision, that like fearful, like, you can see us? I said, yes, I can see you very clearly, and you're going to have to go. And so I would scoop them up, put them in that portal where they don't come out again. And so what started happening around the world, actually, some of my immediate proteges, but other people picked up on this, is they started clearing the astral realm of these non-physical entities. And so by the end of the summer, less than 10, well, it's down to now less than 1% of them are still around. So the entities that people have usually have been there for a long time. Once we take them out, there's no reinforcements for them to go to get reinfected. But having these non-physical entities removed has been one of the reasons why all this, these hidden stuff, especially the really bad things, the satanic rituals and the pedophilia, are being exposed now because these negative beings are no longer able to help cloak or shield this from coming out. So it's being exposed. So.
And you are able to, you have the ability to see those negative entities in a physical form?
Yeah, I mostly feel things, but when I can see rudimentary some things, and if it's something very important, sometimes I see it. But these are the reptilian-looking entities that look like little dragons. Well, they look little to me by the time I blow myself up, and that's what I'm getting rid of. Those are the bosses of the entities that are infecting humans.
Was it overwhelming for you when you first began to see them in the physical form?
Well, they were physical. They were in physical form. There's not very many left. But dragons, the myth of dragons is not a myth. They were real. They're underground. There's other aspects of that civilization, hierarchy. The militaristic caste of that group looks like the Jem'Hadar warriors from Star Trek, which are like a reptilian head, big, strong. They're the warriors of that. So when I was young, just starting out on this path, on the astral realms, where my natural level of consciousness, I would encounter them all the time, and I would have fights with them. And then sometimes I would wake up in the morning and have bruises, because what happens in the astral, especially the lower astral, will carry over to the physical. So I wake up. Now, subsequently, I got much higher in my energy now, so now there's no more fighting. I'm in a position. On the astral realm, it's a consensual reality, just like your dreams. If you're awake in your dream, the other people that you're interacting with, it's a consensual reality, and the person who can go to the higher level dictates what happens in that dream. So if one person's trying to grab me and flip me or throw me against the wall, if I'm at a higher level, he can't do that, but if I'm higher than him, I can do that. I can pick him up, or I can grow, or shrink, or do whatever I want. Grab him, throw him against the wall, just like in the Matrix. That's what the astral realm is like. And so that's another reason why you want to increase your energy and connect with your higher self. That's what boosts you out of this lower astral realms into where you're not affected by them. They have to worry about you. Those negative entities, service to self entities, are no longer able to influence you.
Do you think it's important to have an out-of-body experience for an astral projection to connect with your higher self, or it's possible to do?
Well, you're doing every time you go to sleep at night. You're almost always out of body. You're in that astral world, and you don't have to have a formal training or anything to do that in order to connect with your higher self. It's not necessary. And what also is not clear, there's all these different things: astral projection, remote viewing, and it's a continuum. It's not like some of the schools say, oh, this is totally different, because you as a human, you live on all these different levels, and so if you're projecting something which is closer to your physical, your etheric body, or just your lower astral body, that's going to be more like astral projection as it's described. And the world that you're in is going to be more closer to the physical world. And when you're just using a higher aspect of you can remote view, you can see what's going on without having to
physically,
or any aspect of your body being there. A part of your body is there, but it's a higher state that doesn't seem like you have a body. So, but you can project higher bodies than just your astral body. So astral projection is really a little bit of a misnomer now. So I don't worry about that. Now, people don't have to worry about that. Your only thing you should not worry about, but strive for, is connecting with your higher self and having that energy come through. Everything else takes care of itself.
Have you ever had an out-of-body experience?
No, yeah. As I said, every time you go to sleep at night, you're going to have one.
And you have been in an awake state of mind when...
Yeah, I've had it in awake states of mind. When I first learned how to do this, when I had my mentor, my Sophie, who opened me up, I heard about this, and so I was doing some business with this fellow in Australia, and so I just spontaneously projected myself over to Australia and had these humorous incidents going on there, where the guy knew I was here, I was still in Florida, and yet here I am in Australia, so I didn't want him to see me, so I'm hiding out while the people there were saying, hey, we just saw this American, I know you just came back from this trade show, but there's an American, where is he? He's in the bathroom, I think, and I don't want to see him because I don't want to have to explain why am I in Australia when I'm really supposed to be in Florida. So then when he left and I got back into my body, and then my mentor Sophie was laughing hysterically. She's like, can't keep track of you anymore.
What is it what's that realm like to be out of body? Is it similar to our physical dimension? How would you describe it?
It's like being in a dream state. To me, it was almost indistinguishable about being in a dream.
But it's more malleable than...
Yeah, it's still malleable. You can be there, not be there. I've done that. Now it's not so much necessary. As I said, I focus on the higher self. I vision wherever I want to affect things, to help people, and I just go there.
And it's possible that you could be out of body and someone else could see you in a physical form.
Right. There's numerous stories where, even in old times, some monk, whatever, he found out that the Pope had passed, and so he went to sleep, and he was asleep for like 15 hours straight, and then 2 days or so, and then 3 days later, the people from the northern Italy came down to Rome to elect a new pope, or whatever reason they had to come back down there for, and they saw the monk sleeping. This is like, how did you get up there to our village and then get back before us, when he was asleep the whole time, but in fact he had projected himself out of his body, and he told people the Pope had passed way before they could have ever gotten news, from normal, horseback to get there.
And it seems like they are finding more and more evidence for these type of experiences.
Yeah, it's natural. And the same thing, that same cabal that's keeping you from in fear, they don't want people to know about these experiences because then they're going to think, wait, the world is way bigger and much greater than we ever thought, and you're not going to be willing to lock themselves up in a little cubicle and slave away.
Them.
Right, to have someone else controlling them.
Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge, Edwin. I'm really grateful you openly share all this stuff.
Well, thank you very much. And I would just let your readers know, if they would like, to go visit my website, energycenterclearing.com. They can download a free Escaping the Matrix audiobook right there, and also they can learn more about the services I offer, like the higher self-integration, as well as my books, Mystic Warrior and Mystic Secrets Revealed.
Thank you for watching Infinite Being TV. As Edwin said, you could find out more about him on energycenterclearing.com. And please leave your comments. I look forward to your feedback, and I will see you soon. Thank you.